You're listening to The Power Project. I'm your host, Brandie Voth. I also like to think that I'm your guide along this journey of purpose, which is where you will hopefully end up at the end of this podcast. I'm a mom, a wife, a daughter, a friend, an entrepreneur, an advocate in the fight against human trafficking. I wear a lot of hats, y'all, but don't we all? And most importantly, I am passionate about inspiring women to go out and lead purpose-filled lives while owning your God-given power. I have this crazy belief that we are all better when we lift each other up, which is exactly why I created this platform to spotlight other women that are leading in ministry, business, and nonprofits in the hopes that you at home will be inspired by their stories to get up and take action in order to walk in purpose and own your God-given power. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Welcome back to The Power Project. My guest today, Brandie Barclay, is an author, a mentor, a speaker, a visionary. She's a woman after my own heart. She's a bad mamma jamma business lady. And she's also been a licensed esthetician for the past 19 years. And any of you listening to the sound of my voice know that I am obsessed with skincare. So this is a great fit. How are you, Brandie? I'm so glad to have you today.
I'm so glad to be here. I think we are soul sisters. I think this is going to be fun times right now.
Oh, and I have to ask, what is your middle name?
Rhea, R-E-A, kind of random.
No, it's not really. So my middle name is Denee, D-E-N-E-E.
Uh-huh.
And people always said Deanie, like when I was a kid. But my mom's middle name is Renee.
Oh.
Yeah, so we've got Brandie Rhea and Brandie Denee here on the show today.
Extra shot of Brandie.
I love it. I love it. Okay, do you know why your parents chose your name or how they chose it?
I do. You know, the song, the 1970s.
No, stop it.
Yes.
That is me as well.
Yep. I mean, it was the song of the season, I guess.
Well, the best part is like you fit the vision that my dad had. He missed the mark with me because he said when he listened to that song, he said, I just always thought of this like really tall blonde lady, like just beautiful tall blonde lady. And I am a short little brunette chick. Like I'm 5'3". I have dark brown hair. I'm like, well, I mean, I did work in a marina and, you know, serve people that came in on a boat, if that helps.
That's so funny. I love it. That is hilarious.
And, you know, there's the new, like, I think it's a Chevy commercial that plays that song now. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
but I'm sure just like me, you've had people sing that song to you your entire life.
Oh, forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's my kids, though, because of the commercial, they've just now really been turned onto it. And in the commercial, they make the boat is named Brandie, and they make that look like that's who they were singing about.
Oh, how funny.
And my kids now are like, they're like, Mom, you were named after a boat.
Well, I used to have a PE teacher that every single time he saw me, he would sing that song every single time.
It's not creepy at all. Not even.
I know, and I'm thinking, you know what? That was really creepy.
Oh, you know, different times, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh. Okay, so we have so much in common other than just the first name. We actually, my publisher is your publisher.
Yes.
And Michael, it literally the first time that I met him or the first time I had an extensive conversation with him, he was like, you have got to meet this lady out in Arizona, because he was like, not only like my brand and my company and my podcast is the Power Project.
Crazy.
Yes. And you have the Power Soul experience. And he was like, you guys literally have the same names, not only in life, but also with your brand and your online communities. And so I loved when I started digging into everything that you have going on. Like you're a woman after my own heart.
No, it's weird. It's
Yes.
weird. Yeah. And when I saw that yours was Power Project, I was looking at, just your title and everything. I go, wow. I mean, we're doing the same thing just about.
Yeah, I know. Michael was like, I need to get you guys together. We need to do some events together and do some collaborations. I'm like, I'm down. Like, I am
Me,
down anytime, anywhere. So,
me
and
too, because, to find like-minded women is a gift, right? Like,
I
just,
just,
we,
yeah,
like, it's like I see you eye to eye and we haven't even met, right?
I know. I know. The last interview I did, she's about 10 years younger than me, but she is, so it's like watching myself like younger. And we were talking about how it's so cool to be in this place in life where when we were kids growing up, I don't know about you, but I was not a quote unquote normal kid. And I had big dreams that nobody understood, and I
Mm,
was really really active in politics, which no fifth grader really got. And so that's been the beauty of this and this podcast and this community has been really meeting people that you're so like-minded with and people that
mhm,
understand it and get it. It's been a really nice blessing for me personally.
mm. Yeah, I'd like to just amplify that. I was speaking with uh, Tom, with the publishing company this morning, and we were talking about my giftings. And, there's just a very little talk about how we were created so unique, and how, at 2 years old, you don't have to tell a kid which toy they like on the floor. They go for what they like. And then
Mhm.
as we get older, people start to tell us what we should do and what we should like. And we start to conform, in school, and then we start to perform in work. And I think that, I'm 46 now, and you really start to want to go back to who you were authentically created to be by God. And that's like, and I think we spend so much time growing up like squashing it because it feels weird, especially if you're a leader. You have a leader mindset or you dream really big. You know, it's interesting because I don't think I used to think, okay, maybe that's grandiose or, narcissistic, or, but really, no, that's how God made me to be. And it doesn't mean that someone who isn't like that is any less than, but it doesn't mean I should always squash that down to fit in, right?
And what do you think from your growing up um, as a child? Was there any certain factor that made you feel like you needed to squash your innate drive to be a leader? Was it accepted for women to be a leader? Did you see women as leaders? Where do you think that came from?
I'm more aware now, like looking back in hindsight. I think that actually when you're young and you're like just playing and you naturally lead, I mean, you see those memes now, it's like you're bossy, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Um, I had my younger sister and my next door neighbor who was younger, and we would play. And, and because I was older and already a natural born leader, like, okay, you are kind of always heading it up, you know? And I would notice my sister would go, okay, like, I'm going to go play checkers until I excel at that because you're always in charge of these things. And so I think even our gifts can kind of rub people the wrong way. And then we judge each other for our gifts, all of us, you know?
Yeah. I don't know that like you said, okay, from a young age, I don't know that I wanted to stifle it, squash it, or make it smaller. But
Hmm.
yes, there was you're bossy, you're too loud, you're too opinionated, you talk too much, you have an answer for everything. And I think it's a tricky balance to figure out how to use those gifts to bring glory to God. Um,
Hmm.
because listen, I am a hot-tempered little Texas chick, and
Yeah.
and I haven't always used those skills, for his good to walk in the authority.
Yeah.
But I think also I didn't I didn't grow up in a situation where women were allowed to lead.
Mm.
So seeing this now where we are at today and seeing so many women of faith that are saying, I can be a Christian woman and I can be a leader. And, there's that whole submissive word that tends to throw all of us, like the hair stands up on the back of our neck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But where do you in your marriage, do you find that you have to not make yourself smaller and not lead, but do you and your husband, I didn't even ask, are you married?
I am. Yeah. I've been
Okay.
married. We've been
Do,
married we've been together 22 years.
oh my gosh, that's so cool. So do you guys struggle with the fact that you are a natural born leader, or is that something that works itself out?
It's really cool because he is very much accepting and loving of who I am. And he actually really is he's just like my biggest cheerleader, which helps a lot, right? I mean, that's everything. And it
Mm-hmm.
makes it, and to be honest, the word submissive doesn't really intimidate me at all because I, I believe solely in the power of divine order and that God is God and that I am not. And that, if there's a hill to die on in the marriage, that if we're both doing what God says, which is, him to cherish me and me to respect him, I find that the word submissive really isn't that hard pill to swallow because he
Mm-hmm.
cherishes me and honors me and respects my opinion and we are a team. So, and I choose to keep him the head of the home and really respect who he is in the order that God designed. And I think that is something that is so valuable. It's just so valuable that the word submissive doesn't freak me out at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think I brought it up in a Bible study with women that are older than I am and have gone before me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ladies said, oh, I don't know that that's applicable. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not exactly sure what her words were, but basically she was saying she didn't think that it was really necessary if you're a strong female, if you're a leader. And I was trying to explain the fact that because I've struggled with this and
Mm-hmm.
not in a my husband sounds like he's cut from the exact same cloth as yours.
Mm-hmm.
And he is like the biggest cheerleader, the biggest supporter. Like, you've got this. I will carry your luggage and stand at the back of the room, but please
Oh,
don't ask me to speak.
oh my gosh. I swear. I think that we're clones. Is this
I
happening?
know.
It's
It's so
crazy.
it's so funny. And so for a long time I had this grandiose vision where I was like, you know what? Like, I teach people to speak and I can teach my husband to speak. I can get him on stage with me. We can be a power couple and we can lead together. And we went back and forth and back and forth. And he was like, I promise you, I am never going to be that guy. And so I had to kind of go
Awesome.
through, I had to learn to submit to the way he wanted to lead, which
Yeah.
didn't look like the way I wanted him to lead. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that I don't submit to him. And I think oftentimes we women, that when we sit around and we complain about maybe our husband's not being the leader of the household that we want,
Mm-hmm.
I've challenged women to look deeply and, are you stepping back and giving him permission to lead?
Yeah.
Are you doing your role to submit? Because at the end of the day, whether he leads or not is not in our control, but whether we give him the opportunity to lead and to submit in the household, that is in our control. So
I love what you said that that wasn't his natural gift or inclination. Like my husband, we say like he holds down the back of the room, like legit,
Mhm.
And but what a blessing that is because I was married prior, and I'll just say that you know I think that word submit would be much harder or was much harder being married to the wrong person. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
let's be real. Like if I was married to someone that didn't love me and cherish me the way Matt does, then the word submit would probably be hot out the window. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
so that is a big, big deal.
I think it's so big. And it's interesting because we never intended to go there with this interview, but this is a topic and a conversation I've wanted to have because I know that I speak with so many women in leadership that we've had kind of a casual dialogue about it. But what you just said is 100% spot on.
Hmm.
Because if you're with this person that is your soulmate and the person that God's created you to be with, you should both support each other. It's a give and a take. And I know that I'm a better person because of my husband. And
Yeah,
I can't speak for him, but I think he's better because of me.
sure.
So, that entwined, that beautiful entwined relationship that God created, I think is beautiful. But you're right. If it were not the right relationship and not the right person, it would be an entirely different subject altogether.
It would, because, you think of women, this is the deal is you know, it pained me as years and years in the treatment room with women to see them submitting to someone that was so dishonoring, that was so really mentally abusive or verbally abusive. You know, I think that's why that word gets so much heat, or so,
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
so many women are with men that are not leading in a godly way. And God's intention was we were, honoring his word, and that the man was leading his wife where he would die for his wife, that that he would love and honor and cherish her. So, you take all that away, and you've got a woman who's trying to be godly and loving and honoring and cherishing and submitting, and then that whole entire thing is distorted and not good. So,
Yes.
you know, I think that that's a big, big thing, because women put so much pressure on themselves to be this, and this is what okay, so I'm going to go all out there. I call
Go
it when women are trying so hard to be like this ultimate church woman, like the
Mhm.
church lady, or I call it churchy smirchy, like like overly religious,
Uh-huh.
rather than just being real. If someone isn't treating you right, there's other things to, you know, you submitting under that at all times isn't going to fix that, you know?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And I think it comes down to being comfortable to have these conversations in the church and
Oh,
out of the
yeah.
church, right? And talk about it and say, "Hey guys, here's an unpopular opinion. Being a Christian and going to church and being really deep in your faith does not by any means mean that your marriage is not ever going to be under attack."
1000%.
And I think that when we say, "Hey, we need to make sure that we guard our hearts and we talk about the hard things and we go talk about it with the right people and other strong faith-filled women," then we can have that conversation about, "Hey, do we struggle with this? Because I do. I'm sure you do. And
Hmm.
let's kind of, let's pray for each other and build each other up rather than put on a happy face and be the church lady that says everything's perfect."
Hmm. Yeah, because
Mhm.
I think those kinds of words like submit are what keep women out of church, or
Mhm.
because it freaks them out. Like, oh, that's not going to work. This guy doesn't have my back, and I don't want to hear that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I that's understandable, you know? So,
Well, I grew up in a legalistic religion, and it
hmm.
was, the man had all the power and all the authority. And
Hmm.
so I was taught that women were to submit and that we were to obey. And so I bristled. I mean, I was that girl that I was like, I don't really want any part of any religion that says I have to sit down and be quiet and look pretty
Mm,
and don't do anything that the man says I can't do. So
yep.
you're 100% right. I think if people haven't had a faith walk before, that might be a really scary word.
Yeah.
Have you and your husband, have you been believers your entire marriage?
Yes, definitely. In fact, well, I've been a believer since I can remember, but saved when I was 9. And
I was
when,
baptized when I was 9 and saved, like,
oh, and
fully gave
when,
my heart to Christ at 9. Yep.
yeah, but when I met my husband, I'd just gone through a really bad marriage. And so I wasn't so hot on the idea of getting married again. But this is what happened. I definitely was very strong in my faith at that time, and was really ultimately like, I've tried to doing things my way, and here I am, a single mom, divorced, and now I'm dating someone, I'm crazy about him, and I'm not honoring God. He's staying at my house, and we're together 24/7, and he's in my daughter's life. And it really was more at that point, like, I know that if I don't honor God with this relationship, it won't work. So a step of faith was getting married. It really was that. I knew I loved him and I knew I wanted to be with him, but if I could have had it my way, I would have just not gotten married until I was really ready. And so, we just had this moment. We were out one night, and it was a big party night. It was the millennial, the big new year, the year 2000.
When all the computers were going to stop.
Yeah, right. When the world was going to end. And we waited tables together, and we were going out really late and going out at midnight. And I just had this sixth sense, and, like the spirit kind of, I just had this sixth sense about the night. So I was like, God, just give me spiritual eyes and just cover and protect us. And we went to this party. This is kind of a crazy story. We go to this party, and you look around and you can see that it's not your typical party. There's like big tents in the back with seafood and the top DJ in all of Arizona, people going off into different rooms. I mean, it was the kind of party you see in the movies, And I'm standing there, and I had prayed for spiritual eyes, and I started to see what was really happening. And like the spirit was just showing me, like, this isn't where you belong. This isn't you. And so I walked outside with Matt, and we sat down, and I just said, it was kind of like, I went a little bit crazy. It's like I got divorced. I was a young mom, and it was like, this was my little chance to be free and just kind of be wild and have fun and party and just get some stuff out of my system. But it was like, in that moment, I just knew, like, I'm done. Like, I need to, like, get it together. So we go outside, and I sit there, and I just tell him, I said, you know what? I just have to tell you, this isn't me. And I think if we're going to stay together, we need to just get married. And and it was like, I just wanted to align with God again. Does that make,
Yeah.
And it was just instantaneous. Like, I'm done screwing around. I've had my fun. I really want to get my life in order. And he said, okay. And we set a date for like a year later, not knowing that I think I was already pregnant and I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm really a screw up, right? So we got married much quicker. But, my marriage has been really, really blessed. I really do think it's because the whole idea of getting married was solely to just honor God. If I wanted it my way, I would have waited a year, not been pregnant, had a nicer wedding, saved up, and done all this stuff. But you know what? It wasn't about that.
Hey friends, if you're a parent like me, I don't have to tell you how scary of a time it is to be raising teenagers. While the internet is an amazing resource that brings us together each and every week, it can also be a playground for hidden dangers. That's why we at the Power Project have partnered with Bark, an app that's dedicated to help keep kids safe online and in real life. Last year alone, Bark helped protect nearly 3 million kids with their groundbreaking products for families and schools. By monitoring text messages, YouTube, emails, and 24 different social networks for potential safety concerns like cyberbullying, self-harm, violence, sexual predators, and more, Bark allows busy parents to rest easier knowing their kids are better protected from digital dangers. You can head over to bark.us and use promo code POWERPROJECT to save 15% off your order. That's bark.us, promo code POWERPROJECT. once here we are like power soul sisters.
Mm,
And my husband and I had very similar story, and we both had previous relationships. And I remember being out at a bar for a friend's birthday, like a big fancy bar in Dallas, and him leaning over and saying, if it weren't for my past, I would marry you tomorrow.
mm.
And I said, if it weren't for mine, I would say yes. And we literally were pregnant within 6 weeks from then, or
Mhm,
knew we were pregnant within 6 weeks from then.
mhm.
And I tell everyone, I'm like, God saved us from ourselves, because I think otherwise we would have just been stubborn and hard-headed and
Yeah.
and possibly missed out on this relationship that God created for us. So I get it. I 100% understand. And listen, if anyone at home doesn't get what we're talking about, it's okay, because you and I totally understand each other's story right now.
Yes, it's, and I think it's good for people to hear, everything wasn't lined up just right. Actually, I wasn't pregnant at that time because I just did the math in my head. But I was pregnant fairly short, after that. And it was, and I think it's good to talk as Christian women, like, we didn't do it all perfect,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
But by the grace of God, like, if we at any time we can pivot, we can have that turnaround and decide to go to go a better way, and it's just such an awesome thing when you do, because the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more my track record with God is perfect. He has always always come up, he's always come through for me. So when I step into obey and align with what he's telling me or what his word says, he always comes through. So as it grows your faith and grows your faith and grows your faith, and you just get so much better at it. You get so much quicker at not second guessing him. And that's really what Power Soul is all about. It's about, you know, having that turnabout and saying, you know what, enough with my way, and knowing that God's way is higher. And maybe at first you're a little afraid to like surrender that, but once you do, and the more often you do it, the easier it gets. And then pretty soon you're living in this victorious life in all ways, and you start to fill up with so much victory you can't help but like want to share it, and you want it to overflow into other people, and it starts to overflow into your job and in all your relationships. And it does take time, but I love the idea that is what ultimately Power Soul is strengthening your faith to the point where you stop second guessing God, and you start to live the life that he called you to and the victory he called you to. And what a magnificent experience and adventure it is. And I always say, if your faith is boring, you're not doing it right, because God is not boring. This is a
Mm-hmm.
very exciting process once you decide, I'm going to go all in with this,
So did you ever in the very beginning, when you began speaking and creating Power Soul and having this call on your heart to speak into people about walking in the authority that God has given us, did you question your qualifications, or did you question am I a good enough Christian, quote unquote, for this role? Did you question God about it, or did you just fully embrace it?
Oh, well, I think it's amazing how God works, because I'd already gone through the questioning of myself, and really, to be honest, I know I'm not good enough. And I think that that's again why I am a Power Soul. I know I'm not good enough, but I don't need to be. I know that I don't need to be the best. I know that if I make room for God to move through me and operate through me, that the best will show up. It's not really even all about my best. And so, I went through a kind of a really hard few, probably 3 dark little seasons before I stepped fully into Power Soul. And through that, actually in those, it was kind of like an up and down roller coaster. Like, I went through a hard time, and then God would show me something, and then another hard time, and God would show me something. And so when he told me that, to get ready to speak, it was pretty profound, and I knew it was him. So it wasn't like I was trusting even my own ability, I knew that I just needed to surrender my ability to him. And, that's still an issue. That's still something I do all the time. That's something I did right before this podcast was, I could be over here scrambling going, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? How am I going to sound? And is it going to be all right? Or I can just say, I'm just, I humble myself under the Holy Spirit and I invite you, God, to have your way with this and just complete it. And whoever hears it is supposed to hear it. And stop trying to be good enough and just know that that's why we have Jesus. It's like if we were all good enough, then we wouldn't need the perfection of him to come in and take over. That's where it all is for me. And that's really what I try in all of my coaching and all of my speaking. And you and I are unique. Our stuff isn't for everyone. I believe that we're leaders for leaders, and those people that are that are being called to a place that takes a lot of faith.
Mm-hmm. So do you know, like when you were talking about when you heard God tell you to get ready to speak, was there one specific moment when you knew this is what he's calling me to do and I have to say yes?
Yeah, but it's funny because it's like that scripture where he doesn't give us a floodlight to see the whole thing. He gives us a lamp under our feet, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the hard part for people like you and I, like these bulb busters. Like we want to know, like, what are you doing, God?
It is so hard.
We want to know, what are you doing? So yes. I think the hard part for me is just knowing I'm not going to know the next step until I take this.
I do the same. I go from like one point to the next, like, okay, what's next, God? What's next, God? What's next, God? And he's constantly telling me, wait and trust. And I'm like, okay, but I mean, time's ticking.
Brandie, okay, how old are you?
I will be 38 in April.
Okay, so 38. It's funny that you just said 38. 38 was when I had a real revelation of God's love. That was the most transforming thing in my life. And it was when I was in a really dark season that he revealed Romans 5:8 to me, which is, in your darkest, I still died for you. And so I realized in that season of feeling really low and kind of lost, is that I don't think any of us desire to feel low and lost, but there was something really special about me feeling found by him.
Yeah. I think what I've seen, and you and I both have books coming out this spring, and I can't wait to read yours because I think it sounds like it's so similar to my platform. But what I talk about in my book, when you're saying there's just something so deep about realizing that he's there for you and he loves you, my revelation really has been realizing that he created me this way for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think it's beautiful when you get to that place and when you realize this is who God created me for. He made me very honest and very loud and very opinionated.
Yeah.
For a reason, to serve his purpose. So I think it's beautiful to reach those revelations. And so and that was before you began. How long have you been speaking and motivating women and really pouring into others?
Oh, well, I think it's that work in the treatment room where I was one-on-one with women all day long and just hearing their heart and helping them through things. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I'll tell you that when I started to really just submit to the Holy Spirit every day at work, the things that would happen were so crazy, like miraculous things. And I'd find myself praying with people out of nowhere. It was just, and I just started to see this deeper need than fixing wrinkles with Botox, And I started to get way more interested and
it's okay. I'm not mad when we're fixing wrinkles with Botox, right?
Well, hey, I'm all about Botox. Let's just be real. I love Botox. Okay.
We
But
can do that and love Jesus, ladies.
amen. Yes, 1,000%. We don't need to look grouchy, for God's sakes, Um, but I just started to have this shift, and the shift was there because God wanted me to do something else. And if that shift never happened, I would have stayed because I was a happy little clam doing my thing. I was known for skincare. I was great at it. Or I still am, but I'm just doing it on a much smaller scale than I was. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So it had to lose its luster a little bit, I think, for me to step out and do something that God was calling me to do. It started to lose its luster. And the day that became very loud, that God wanted me to speak, I went to a networking event for women where all of these quote unquote boss ladies were on stage telling their influencer story and, how they had to overcome to build their business and become these powerhouse women. Well, what happened was I went to this event, this networking event, and I had lost my voice that day. So I couldn't talk. It's like our worst nightmare. We're talkers, right?
Yes. Yes.
So can you imagine going to the biggest women's event and you can't talk to any women? I mean, I'm like so irritated. So I go to the bathroom at the break at lunch and this is TMI, but this is the truth. God talks to me in bathrooms and on toilets. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
There's this sacred space when I pee. I don't know what is happening. But
you're on the throne.
Yeah. And it was seriously almost audible. It was so big how God said, "How does it feel to not have your voice today?" And I said, "I don't like it." And it was just so clear. He said, "Get ready to use your voice." And he reminded me of a time where 15 years later, I'd gone to see a speaker and he revealed that to me, that you're going to speak someday to a lot of women. And so I came home, I got on the bed, cried to my husband because it was so profound that he was saying, "Get ready." And, I'd already been speaking to a lot of women, but just one-on-one. So stepping into this space has been really unique and intimidating and fun. But I think when you are in your natural gift and you watch other people do your gift, like I was that day, I was watching these other women speak from stage, talking to women. There was something in me that gets stirred up. And I think you can either get jealous of the women in front of you, or you can go, you know what? That's my gift. I'm supposed to do that.
Brandie, when you read my book, you are literally going to read these exact experiences that I've encountered.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, there's a line in my book literally where I tell my husband, no, I'm supposed to be speaking to people about more than just skincare.
Wow.
Like literally that is how much we were meant to be working together and collaborating together in life, because
wow.
I can't make this up. You and I have chatted about 5 messages on Facebook Messenger before this interview
Hardly,
today.
yes. It's crazy.
I love it. And in the beginning of my purpose journey, which is what I call the last 3 years of my life, when God told me you're supposed to be speaking about more than just skincare, in the beginning of the journey, when all of these things would align like this, I would be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That is so ironic. That is so serendipitous. And now I'm literally, every time something happens like this and a girl named Brandie comes on my show that has a power platform that loves skincare and everything aligns, I'm like, checkmate, God, I see you.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's God. And it's like, the more, it's crazy. That day I didn't have my voice because I was supposed to be listening, and I heard him loud and clear. I came home and started studying the word and praying about the next step. And to be honest, every day it's still, okay, what's the next step? And I heard a sermon not long ago. It was pretty awesome, where he said, Jesus always used other people in his miracles. He wanted people to be a part of it. And none of the miracles really happened without someone else taking a step of faith first. And so that was really great for me to hear, because sometimes I think I'll sit and wait, like, okay, God, what are you going to do? And I'll wait too long instead of just stepping out into that like next thing, and testing the water a little bit, because even this event that I'm throwing in the spring, it's a really big leap of faith. But to me, it's almost more uncomfortable now to sit and wait. It's like, okay, you put that on my heart, you put this creative desire in me, you put the vision in, I see it before it even happens, so I know you want me moving in that direction. I just need to start moving, and the
Yeah.
movement, the being active and just being proactive in the movement that he's calling, or the vision he's calling, and just walking in faith even when you don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's exciting. I mean, it's like getting on a roller coaster. And that's why I think when people get bored by their faith, I'm thinking, you know what? Then you're not really walking in the amount of faith that you can walk in, because it's like sometimes feels like a tightrope. I mean, it's like an adrenaline rush, you know?
Yeah. And maybe you're not being close enough in relation to hear the excitement. Because
Mm,
I struggle with the weight, and I struggled with it this summer a lot, right around the time that I was trying to figure out what the next step was with this book. And God revealed to me Isaiah 40 and 31 about waiting upon the Lord.
mm,
But then in that, literally the Mumford and Sons song, I Will Wait for You.
mm, mm-hmm.
Okay, I did not know this was scriptural based. That song just started playing in my head on repeat. And I thought I need to research the words of that song. And so the chorus says, or the bridge, something, it says, bow my head, paint my spirit gold, raise my hands, and keep my heart slow. So in turn, I've taken those four steps and been able to apply scripture to them to give myself an active means of waiting upon the Lord.
That's awesome.
Because we get confused sometimes and think that waiting means just standing still and listening. And while that's crucial, we also have to put feet to our prayers.
Yep.
And so that's my personal action step
That's
for.
awesome. I love that. Okay, I'm going to have to call you later, and I'm going to have to write all that down again.
Yes, I will get it to you. But we're running out of time. I could talk to you for hours, but I would love for everyone to get your book this spring when it comes out. And that book is called
There is power and peace in knowing your worth.
There is Power and Peace in Knowing Your Worth. I love it. And then also, hopefully we'll be at some of these book launch tours events
Oh, we
together.
will. Brandie, we know something is going down, girl. We know it.
I know it. I know it. I can't wait. And then also your Power Soul experience. Give me the dates, the location, and where everyone can get tickets.
That is in Scottsdale, Arizona, May 2nd, 2020. It's a half-day Power Soul experience. I've got incredible speakers coming in that I look up to, that personally have coached me and are fire, power. Like, it's awesome. The tickets you can get them actually on my Instagram. So it's Brandie, Brandie, Barclay, Barclay. So you can find the link there in my bio. They start at $69. Then we also have a VIP event right after for a Cinco de Mayo dinner. It's at a beautiful place in Scottsdale, and it'll be a beautiful time of year. Super fun.
I love that. So we go to your Instagram and grab tickets for that over there. I think it's going to be amazing. I've already checked out the lineup, and I am so grateful to know you and be connected with you.
I am so grateful too. I feel like we need to talk ASAP, because this is too crazy. Plus, you also said you had back surgery, and my daughter had that same back surgery.
I know. I'm like, okay, God, and check. And we can have a whole other conversation about how you literally like validated some things that I needed validated, like from the Lord. So, yeah, it's absolutely nuts. Your daughter and I are both, twisted scoliosis sisters with titanium spines.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm so grateful to be here. And, God is doing great things through you, and you are an example and inspiration for me to possibly start a podcast someday, or maybe we'll do something fun together. But thank you so much for having me. It was so awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for coming on, and let's do it, girl. Oh man, you guys, my favorite part about this show is the amazing women that I get to meet every single week. I love hearing their stories, and I love bringing their stories to you guys. I certainly hope that you're inspired to go out and lead your own purpose-filled lives after listening to these guests week in and week out. If you are inspired by something you've heard in this show, can I ask a favor? Can you go please write a review? Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Give us a rating. We'll take 5 stars if you're feeling generous. And then tell all your friends about us so that we can continue to bring you these guests. And by the way, are you hanging out with us on Instagram? Because you should be. It's at @the_power project. Check us out. As always, I hope that you enjoyed this show, and I cannot wait to chat with you next week. But until then, you guys go out and lead your best purpose-filled lives.